Today we're going to talk about a famous explorer, Captain Scott. He was one of the people who explored Antarctica and tried to be the first person to reach the South Pole. His journey and his death is a very famous story in British history. Scott was born in 1868 and joined the Navy when he was only 13. He worked in the Navy for many years and worked on a number of different ships. Unfortunately, his father and brother both died within a few years of each other, so Scott was the only man working to get money for his family. He became very focused on getting promoted and wanted to rise up to a high position in the Navy. This would give him more money so that he could look after his family better. In 1899, when he was back home in London on holiday, he met the president of the Royal Geographical Society. This was the society for all the explorers and adventurers, the people who travelled and explored the world. The society organised all the big journeys around the world to do things like find the beginning of the River Nile, be the first to climb mountains like Everest, or be the first to reach the North Pole or South Pole. Scott met the president of this society, who told him that they were going to organise an expedition. The goal of this expedition would be to explore Antarctica. Scott agreed to be the captain of the ship, and they set off in 1904. They sailed further south than anyone had been before. They didn't really have any experience in this environment, and they hadn't had any training. They didn't have any special equipment like we have today. It was very dangerous, and someone died by falling through the ice. Eventually, after 3 years, they returned home as heroes. Scott won many medals and got promoted. He wrote a book talking about what had happened while they were there. But this journey was just a first attempt at exploring Antarctica. They hadn't been anywhere near the South Pole. Scott wanted to go back to Antarctica again and try and get to the pole. He spent years raising money to pay for the expedition. At about the same time as he had finished raising the money and was starting to prepare for the journey, he received a message. The message said that another man from Norway was also going to try and reach the pole. It was now a race to see who would get there first. They set off in 1910 with lots of men, but also animals like dogs and horses. They also tried taking some transport machines, but these didn't work and they had to continue without them. 6 of the horses died during the journey from the cold. Eventually the dogs also went back, and the men had to continue on their own. The weather was extremely cold, and the land very difficult to travel across. It took them more than a year, but finally 5 men were left to make the final push for the South Pole. When they finally arrived, they discovered that someone had got there first, the men from Norway. Scott wrote in his diary, "The worst has happened. All the daydreams must go. Great God, this is an awful place." Having failed to reach the pole first, they had to start the long journey back. The journey was just as difficult as before, and their supplies of food were getting low. One by one, the men started to die. One man, called Oates, knew that he was slowing the rest of the men down. To save the others, he decided to leave the tent and walk out into the snow to kill himself. His famous last words were, "I'm just going outside and maybe some time." They never saw him again. The other men continued on a bit further and made their final camp on the 19th of March. There was then a strong snowstorm that stopped them going any further. Their food finally ran out, and all the men died, including Scott. They were only 20 kilometers from another food supply, but it was too late. Many months later, a search team found their tent. They found the dead men and Scott's diary. From this diary, we know all about what happened on the journey. Scott is not remembered for his success or glory, but for his bravery and determination.